I will say, Mika, I was nodding along as Tom was just talking. I think this is the biggest challenge. There is unquestionably, Trump has a broad support in his base, as we've just been discussing, and we've seen that play out in the primary. That's the only piece, though, we know at this point. He has problems among independents and problems with an expanded electorate. But these third-party candidates are a huge, huge, huge problem, and there's a number of them. If you look at RFK Jr., it's the name recognition issue, as Tom was just talking about. And there are still states in this country, obviously, I mean, Georgia is one of them, I will name, where the Kennedy name is beloved, right? Where people may just not where they may just not know a lot about the fact that he is an anti-vaxxer who's a conspiracy theorist. They don't know that yet. So this is something, there is an aggressive effort that the campaign has been working with the Democratic National Committee on to run on this, but it needs to be broad. People need to be shouting it from the rooftops, because this is one of the biggest threats to Joe Biden being reelected, is these third-party candidates. If you look at Michigan, Mika, and I know Alyssa Slotkin is going to be on later. I almost called her senator. Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin is going to be on later. Michigan is a state where RFK, I think, is polling at 10%, right? And so this is a place where Joe Biden needs to win, and RFK Jr. is making a real threat to that. So it's good we're talking about it. It is a real threat. They're aware of it, but more needs to be done, and more people need to be talking about it and aware.
I am leaving the Democratic Party. Even though I am leaving the party, I believe I am taking the best ideals and impulses with me. The Democratic Party is supposed to be the party of compassion. It is supposed to be the party of diplomacy and science. It is supposed to be the party of civil liberties and free speech, and most importantly, the party of the middle class and the American dream. While I know many Democrats still abide by those values, I want to point out, and I've been in touch with many people in the Democratic Party, I do believe they've lost their way in their leadership.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I gotta tell you guys, things are just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse for the Biden administration and Democrats when it comes to the 2024 election, okay? If you just consider the race to be between Trump and Biden, Trump is winning, okay? Not only is he winning the national popular vote, but he's also winning in the swing states as well, okay? If the election were held today, I personally believe that Trump would win in a landslide. But the reality is that it's not just Trump versus Biden, okay? The reality is that it is Trump versus Biden versus RFK versus Jill Stein versus Cornel West. And the bad news for Biden is that all of these people are taking away votes from him, okay? And this is bad, bad, bad news for Democrats who already were panicking over RFK running as a third-party candidate using the Kennedy name, which again is a Democrat name, okay? And what that means is that he's most likely to take away votes from Democrats. And that has gotten even more likelier that he is going to take away votes from Democrats, specifically young progressives, because RFK just announced his VP pick, and he picked a young progressive, Miss Nicole Shanahan, who is somebody that's not popular in the political sphere, but she is a wealthy left-wing philanthropist who has been backing RFK's campaign by donating millions of dollars to his super PAC. She actually was responsible for the surprise RFK Super Bowl commercial, and apparently she kind of bought her way into being his VP. And probably the reason why is because RFK needs money, right? So having a wealthy backer is actually a good thing for him, because he's going to struggle to get on a lot of these ballots. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment here. But when it comes to this woman, make no doubt, the Bay Area native, okay, she's a native of Oakland and San Francisco, so a bastion of far leftists. Yeah, she is a progressive through and through, okay? For example, she supports progressive criminal justice reform and these woke DAs that have been the catalyst for these cities becoming cities of chaos in this country, okay? She supports that. She's far left when it comes to the environment. Best believe, again, this woman is a progressive who happened to marry into money. When she met Google co-founder Sergey Brin, got married to him, and then they ended up getting a divorce because apparently she was having an affair by letting Elon Musk clap her cheeks, right? So, again, that is a summary of who she is for the most part. And there is speculation that she is an individual that is going to take away votes from Joe Biden, particularly when it comes to the young progressive base of the Democrat Party. Take a look.
But to settling on Nicole Shanahan is someone who a lot of resources, a lot of that from Sergey Brin, her ex-husband, co-founder of Google. This is someone who's contributed to RFK Jr.'s campaign. Also someone who's a newcomer in politics, but she's also an expert in AI. So this gives a kind of an idea of where Kennedy's thinking is at. He's kind of leaning in to new voter groups, kind of carving off some of those voter groups, particularly from the Democratic base, but also someone who is going to face the spotlight of politics, a place she hasn't been because she hasn't had to really face much of that scrutiny. It'll be interesting to see how that all develops and if they can get on the ballot in a certain number of states. They need to get on the ballot in at least 6 states, if not something like 15 to 18, which is their goal.
And if that happens, it's really going to be interesting to see. And tell us your thoughts on this, on the impact, this third party will have on Biden and Trump as we move forward.
Yeah, Gianna, I think one thing to pay attention to is what happens in states like Georgia or Michigan. We've seen some votes that have happened in Minnesota, Washington, Michigan, and Georgia that have been kind of contrarian or difficult for Democrats, particularly on issues around with young people, around Gaza and what's happening there with Israel. And the Biden team, student loans, variety of different issues that have been difficult to draw out their base and build up enthusiasm. This is exactly what Kennedy wants to tap into. You then have Donald Trump in and out of courtrooms. They'll go after that as well. They're trying to get a voter segment and create this third party called We the People that can be out there and provide an alternative. If that happens in those key states, Donald Trump is tapped out about 46, 47%. Joe Biden's going to have lower enthusiasm. He'll be down. And then that provides a place where a third party candidate, like in 2000, like in 2016, can be consequential, can be a wrecking ball for Democrats in their attempt to get reelected for Joe Biden or to really win the White House. This is what we saw with Ralph Nader. This is the worry with Jill Stein or Cornel West. And this is Kennedy's lane kind of moving forward to be consequential as that potential wrecking ball.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Okay, now we're going to expand on this idea that RFK is going to take away more votes from Joe Biden rather than Trump. But first, Mr. Kennedy has to worry about actually getting on the ballot, okay? Because one of the reasons why I think he picked her is because this woman is wealthy, and it is expensive to not be a part of a political party and to try to get on the ballot in all 50 states, okay? And apparently, again, this woman is so progressive that even the Libertarian Party is saying, I'm not necessarily sure if we're okay with this VP pick. That's how progressive that she is, which could be an issue for RFK getting on the ballot in all 50 states. Take a look.
Okay, you haven't so far in our conversation had high praise for his choice. You might think she's a fine person, but she doesn't align with your values as libertarians. Is this choice of Nicole Shanahan disqualifying for RFK Jr. To gain the nomination of your party?
I can't personally say that it's disqualifying, but it doesn't right out of the gate seem like it's going to do a lot to help. I think that he's going to have to really show us, and she certainly will as well, that they care about individual and economic freedom in particular, and that they want to continue to be, they want to be our standard bearers. And I certainly understand, that they're not going to come into alignment with us on every single issue. And that's happened before in the past with candidates like Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. But, the appetite in the party for someone like Bill Weld right now is not very strong. We want someone who's going to be radical.
Yeah, so probably not radically progressive, okay? I think that's what she means. So regardless of RFK and whether or not he can actually get on the ballot in all 50 states, Democrats are panicking, and rightfully so, because again, with him selecting a progressive, it is clear and obvious the type of voter that he's going after. The type of voter that is young, progressive, and not happy with the Biden administration. Somebody like, for example, a Charlamagne the God, right? I mean, Charlamagne the God is a progressive that is frustrated with the Biden administration, frustrated with the Democrat Party, but he's not conservative, right? He doesn't really want to vote for Trump. He actually just wants to vote for another progressive. I think that is the type of voter that somebody like RFK is basically going for at this point. And if that is the case, then yeah, Democrats should be panicking, and they are panicking. Take a look.
Democrats are now lashing out at independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. after he introduced his running mate, Silicon Valley attorney Nicole Shanahan.
Peter Ducey is live at the White House with this. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning. With no running mate, RFK Jr. was only eligible to be confirmed on the ballot in one state. That was Utah. But now that he's got a running mate, he can start collecting signatures to get on the ballots in 23 other states. Her name is Nicole Shanahan.
And the Democratic Party, I do believe they've lost their way in their leadership. I worry for the party's overwhelming interest in elitism, celebrity, and winning at all cost. And I worry that they do it even if that means turning a blind eye on the issues that they all know to be true.
RFK Jr. is polling 13% in the latest Fox News poll. Democrats are concerned that he is going to sap support away from Biden and throw the election altogether towards Trump, but those complaints aren't really registering.
Our values didn't change, but the Democratic Party did. The things that we love are still the same. We love our families, our children, and our faith. We love clean air and clean water and productive soils and good food. We love the wilderness and our Purple Mountains majesty. And above all, we love our country.
We were in Raleigh, North Carolina with President Biden and Vice President Harris yesterday, and they talk a lot about Trump and about MAGA Republican extremists, but nothing about RFK Jr. There is some reporting out there that President Biden doesn't want to go after him because he doesn't want to offend Ethel Kennedy, RFK's mom, who he considers a friend. But if he continues being such a threat to President Biden's reelection, that will not last long.
And when it's a three-way matchup, when it's a two-way matchup, President Trump versus President Biden, Trump beats Biden by 1.6%. When it's a three-way matchup, Trump beats Biden by over 5 percentage points. This has the other third-party candidates in it as well. So you could see why the DNC and the Biden campaign are what is being described as in panic mode right now.
Because of the initial thought, here's an example. Here's the state senator, Mallory McMorrow, says this. Him being in the race means that there is a greater likelihood that Donald Trump will become president again. Kennedy should be smart enough to know better, but I don't think he does. I think his ego's in the way. Now, the problem is, and the reason why this is another congressman, Congressman Art Garcia says, I'm personally offended and just disgusted by his campaign. Oh, that's nice. I didn't know he needed your approval. Right now, he's only on in Utah, but he's got to do a special thing for almost every state, and he's got a team doing it, one of which is get a running mate. He did not necessarily want to do a running mate now, but for...
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, Democrats are in panic mode. And like I said, they should be, because it's not just when you look at the national level popular vote that RFK is helping out Trump. But when you look at the state level, each state, which is what the race is really going to come down to, you know, how does RFK play into each state's race? Again, it looks like that he helps Trump, right? He takes away votes from Joe Biden. Like, for example, you take a look at this poll right here from Bloomberg that features Trump, Biden, RFK, Cornel West, and Jill Stein, which is most likely what the choices are going to be. Trump is dominating across the board, right? He's up 6 in North Carolina, up 6, Pennsylvania, up 6, Arizona, up 6, in Nevada, up 7, in Georgia, up 2 in Wisconsin, and tied in Michigan. Now, in a state like Michigan, for example, there are other polls, like the CNN poll, that show that Trump with RFK in the race is actually up 6. Now, without RFK, he's up 8. But in a state like Pennsylvania, okay, the same poll showed that Biden and Trump were tied in Pennsylvania. But with RFK in the race, Trump is up 2. Okay, so again, you know, this idea that RFK was going to take away more votes from Trump than Biden was silly from the beginning. Because like I told you guys, you don't have to be super smart to understand politics and how things work, okay? Just generally speaking. Biden doesn't have a real base, okay? Nobody voted for Biden because they like Biden. And when people are voting for you, not because they like you, but because they hate the other guy, that means that people can easily steal votes from you. That means that your base is not solid. RFK is not taking away a significant amount of votes from Trump, right? That's just the reality here, okay? And that's not to say he's not taking away any votes. Obviously, he is, and I think, again, depends on which state you're looking at in regards to how big the effect is. But overall, it definitely hurts Biden, and this was not a hard thing to predict because, again, if you just understand the basics of politics, again, you would have known that, yeah, RFK is bad news for Joe Biden because RFK is a Democrat. RFK is not a conservative. He may align with conservatives on some issues. Like, for example, when it comes to the vaccine, the people in the conservative base that aren't fans of, vaccine science or whatever. Okay, yeah. But I don't think that's that big of an issue, right? That's not an issue that's so big and it's so important that people are going to say, hey, I'm going to abandon Trump and I'm going to go with somebody like RFK. Okay, because RFK is not a conservative. He is a liberal Democrat. And he basically proved where his politics are at by picking a progressive to be his running mate. Okay, because he could have picked somebody more right-leaning and ran a unity ticket, which probably could have took away more votes from Trump, right? It could have been RFK saying, listen, I'm more right-leaning. Okay, I'm going to be to the right of Joe Biden. But no, he's actually now positioned himself to the left of Joe Biden. Okay, that's what he's doing by picking somebody like this woman. Okay, and again, this spells disaster for Democrats because the most shaky voters in the Democrat Party are the progressive base. Biden will lose if the progressive base does not show up and vote for him. And it seems like, based off what happened in the Democrat primary, that the progressive base, they're going to abandon Joe Biden specifically over what's going on in Israel and Gaza. So now you throw RFK in the mix, who just picked a VP, who quite literally is there to take away progressive votes from Joe Biden, okay? Because a lot of these young progressives, they aren't voting for Trump, okay? They vote for Biden. Bad news, right? Terrible news for Democrats, okay? This is the worst possible thing that RFK could have did when it comes to affecting Joe Biden's chances of winning, okay? I mean, effectively, it makes it a lot harder now for Democrats when it comes to progressive voters. And also, again, you can't forget Jill Stein and Cornel West, who are leftists. They are far left progressives. So you have what essentially is 2.5 progressives in the race, okay? You got Jill Stein, Cornel West, and then RFK is basically half a progressive at this point that are taking away those votes from Biden, okay? And then you got Trump, who's the only conservative, right? Who's the only conservative? I mean, he's the only Republican choice. So, again, this is fascinating, and Democrats definitely should be concerned because it seems like this definitely is going to be a Ross Perot, Jill Stein type of situation. Like, for example, in 2016, in certain swing states, like, for example, Michigan, Jill Stein, who's a progressive, took away votes from the Democrat candidate, Hillary, which allowed Trump to win by a razor-thin margin. Had Jill Stein not been in the race, Hillary would have won Michigan. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have that same situation here happen in 2024 because there are too many progressives running for president, okay? And they're taking away votes from Joe Biden. And Joe Biden, again, he's in a situation where he's not popular among the progressive base. So it is likely that we're going to have this effect in the 2024 election. And it's going to be kind of crazy to see what happens because if Trump wins because of all these third-party candidates, best believe the liberal media, they're going to lose their minds, right? They're going to lose it, okay? So I expect the attacks to ratchet up on people like RFK or a complete blackout, right? There's a complete blackout from the media. They won't talk about RFK. They're not going to talk about Jill Stein. They're not going to talk about Cornel West. That'll be what happened, right? It'll be like RFK derangement, or there'll be a complete blackout, right? No in between, right? It won't be fair, okay? That's what I'm saying because panic is definitely setting in, and this was not good news for the Biden administration to have RFK pick a leftist to be his running mate because that means that he's gunning for Democrat progressive voters. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.